So now I'm going to discuss how quality of life is affected by redlining, mainly in the long-term effects. So as housing is a basic necessity, it is an essential building block to obtain steady employment, good education, banking, and healthcare. When Black Americans were steered towards lower-funded neighborhoods with lower quality housing, trends began to occur in other aspects of life outside of residential as well. As a consequence of redlining, neighborhoods that local banks deemed unfit for investment were left underdeveloped or in disrepair. Consequently, African Americans in those neighborhoods were frequently limited in their access to banking, healthcare, retail, merchandise, and even groceries, which is a quote from Harris, page 45. The lack of access to basic needs prevented Black residents from being able to obtain more wealth and obtain an overall higher quality of life. This phenomenon has been researched many times as discrimination in housing markets contributes to residential segregation, which is associated with concentrated disadvantage, poor health outcomes, and limited educational and employment opportunities. Quote from Pager, page 199. Local housing and property tax contributes to funding in things like infrastructure, education, and emergency services. Since redline neighborhoods were continuously underinvested and devalued in terms of home value, lack of development was a natural consequence. Due to the fact that many previously redline neighborhoods continued to be underdeveloped and lack healthcare resources, minority neighborhoods tended to have lower overall public health, as the risk of illness and injury from infectious diseases and environmental hazards are also greater in minority neighborhoods, while resources to deal with them are less available than in mostly white areas. And that's a quote from Farley on page 38. Many minority neighborhoods are in proximity to health hazards like factories, as when redlining was taking place, these were the undesirable areas that Black Americans were steered towards, while areas with better air quality and infrastructure were reserved for white people most often. Lower public health and resources resulted in residents being forced to take time off or give up working to take care of themselves or family members. Employment opportunities are also limited by proximity, as when you're in necessarily not a desirable area where business isn't flourishing, you're not going to have many close by opportunities, and you're going to have to go out of your way to find work elsewhere, which economically disadvantages you. The fundamental cause theory suggests that maintaining good health is difficult for those of lower SES due to lack of adequate resources, communication, and food access. Which is obviously all things that redline neighborhoods that are majority minorities, those neighborhoods face these things more often. In recent years, we've seen the rehabilitation of urban areas through gentrification, but rarely does gentrification actually solve root issues like food insecurity. The food access that accompanies gentrification is often overpriced and targets higher income residents moving in. This can create food mirages or situations in which food retailers are present, but too expensive or culturally exclusionary for longer-term residents. Access to food is essential to life success in other areas, so not having access to a proper grocery store can not only stunt health, but also performance in education and work. Basically, redline neighborhoods are just, from all aspects of life, disadvantaged because of redlining, from not very good health opportunities to not good food access to defunded educational areas because of their low home values. It's just in every single aspect there's disadvantage, and it's just compounded in so many different ways.